Welcome to the Friction to Freedom podcast, where the mission here is to support you as you tap into the best and highest expression of yourself. I'm Janet D. Thomas, and I want to welcome you to this episode. Now, generally speaking, this podcast is all about one premise: the idea that internal shifts can lead to external success. Internal shifts, external success. All about the external success, absolutely, but flipping the script on it in a way where we're looking at it differently, talking about the inside job that external success is really all about. Now, I have said before, I think in the first episode, that this work can be hard as hell. And I believe that. However, I want to try to shortcut that for you. I want to try to give you some information that can give you a better, easier way to go at it than to have it be so challenging. But I think that it can be challenging because we are just not used to paying attention to ourselves and looking within. Sometimes that can be a landmine if we're dealing with a lot of self critical things and negative self talk and beliefs and ideas that we've dealt with for years that are just really beating ourselves up. And that's actually one of the things that we're going to talk about today. But first, want to remind you, you are your own best authority when it comes to your life. So take what you can use and leave the rest behind. Now, last episode, we started talking about the idea of why can there be so much friction in my life when it comes to dealing with other people? What is the friction about when it comes to other people? Now, last time, I gave some information that has to do with the brain and how the brain learns and how it likes to automate things so that it can predict future behavior. It likes to operate as efficiently as possible. So, when it comes to the idea of your brain, and by the way, our brains work this way, your brain wants to exert as little amount of effort as possible. And with this comes what are called prediction scripts. It wants to predict future behavior based upon previous behavior or future thoughts or ideas or concepts based upon previous ideas and concepts. After all, that's what has been entrained. That has been what has been on automatic pilot. And your brain assumes that things are going to happen in the future the way that they have in the past. So, what that means is that there's a lot of automatic pilot going on within ourselves. So, I want to give a little bit of information about this. And then I want to give you 3 different points to consider when it comes to the idea of why things can be so full of friction when we deal with other people. And we'll go from there. So there was an author by the name of Anais Nin. Actually, she was pretty controversial, but she was an essayist and also an author, not an artist, an author. And this idea has been stated philosophically, religiously. It's been out there for decades and decades and eons, actually, centuries. I'll just say centuries. And this is what she said that has been said in so many ways at so different times. I'm sure you could think of your own way of saying it. But what she said was, we don't see things as they are, we see things as we are. We don't see things as they are, we see things as we are. And that points to the idea of how the brain functions when it comes to prediction scripts and also expectations. So I'm going to cut to the chase here. Why can I have so much friction sometimes when it comes to other people? And I'll tell you why. I think the friction happens when we expect someone else to change themselves based upon our expectations. When we want someone else to change to fit into what our expectations are, That's when the friction happens. Hope that makes sense. Anyway, even if it doesn't, that's what my idea is when it comes to friction with other people. When we don't accept them as they are and we try to change them, there is friction that can happen. And I thought about it for myself. I was like, well, look, if somebody's trying to change me, it's like I'm the only one who could change myself. You're not going to change me. I mean, I've been the way I am for so long. How can that change? But anyway, let me give you an example, and I'll give you one from at least one of my lived experiences. I actually heard about this from a therapist. Now, this wasn't a therapist that I used when I was really doing my healing work because for so long I was pleasing people. And I was also pleasing therapists when I was in therapy at certain times. And I always just wanted to say what I thought they wanted to hear. So I don't really remember this particular therapist. I had maybe one or two sessions with. But this is something that a therapist said to me one time. And she said that children, without even recognizing it, are always trying to help their parents or their authority figures or their caregivers happy. They're always trying to make them happy. We're going to talk about shadow work at another time, but what this has to do with is what she said was children can identify those areas that their parents or their caregivers or their authority figures don't want to address within themselves. And they go right to that shadow, the hidden parts that we don't want to deal with. Children are always trying to make their parents happy. And I think they try to make their parents happy because they want to see them happy, first of all. Second of all, they want to be happy themselves and they want to feel safe and secure. And when they feel happy and good, when their parents or their caregivers feel happy and good, they feel safe. So, what happens when you have a child who's trying to make their unhappy parents happy? They do everything they can, and it could possibly be where they get punished for it or they get ignored or other things happen. But what can happen is that when the child does not make their parents happy, they may turn it on themselves. I certainly did this when my parents weren't happy. And look, it's life. We're not happy all the time, right? Some of us aren't happy most of the time, some of us. But can you imagine what it's like for a child who doesn't recognize that they can't change their parents and they're trying to change their parents so that they'll be happier, so that everybody can be happy? What happens when they can't change them? They might turn inward on themselves. They might blame themselves for not being able to make their parents happy. Now, think about that because as a parent, theoretically speaking, a parent has been on the planet and been with their own prediction scripts, their own expectations for literally decades. Decades. So there's a lot of automatic pilot beliefs, actions, concepts that are running in the background that are entrained. They've been there for a long time. And when a child comes into their lives, chances are they're not going to flip that switch and be a different person. And that's just how our brains work. So they have entrained beliefs and ideas on who they are. And a precious baby comes in trying to change them to be happy, and it doesn't work. And then they end up perhaps blaming themselves for not being able to make their parents happy. And then their own entrained beliefs start where they may think, well, gee, I'm no good. I'm deficient. I can't make them happy. So it must be something that I did wrong. It must be some way that I'm showing up that isn't good. So then that can start a belief of not being good enough. And if we repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, it becomes automated and entrained, and we just have this belief that we're no good. That's what children do, and they can't change their parents. Now, that's one generation, okay? I call it for my own experience when I used to try to make my parents happy. Think about this for your own parents or caregivers, for their parents and caregivers, their parents and caregivers. All of us were children at some point trying to make someone else happy. And chances are it didn't work because by the time we came here, folks are fully baked. They are who they are. But again, we don't know that. And we can then internalize that on ourselves. So, with this conversation, especially when it comes to internal shifts translating to external success, when we're talking about this inner game, the most important thing that the way I see it is about self compassion. Compassion towards ourselves, to be down on ourselves for certain things that we have no control over or that we are not aware of, to judge ourselves in those ways, completely inappropriate. It's just inappropriate because we don't have the whole story. We don't know the whole story. So, why would we think that we are to blame or to judge or to punish ourselves when we don't even know how these mechanisms work? And it's simply how our physiological body, our neurological body, it's how these things work. So I would invite you to give yourself a lot of compassion, and also the idea of giving other people compassion too, giving yourself and other people the benefit of the doubt, because we are running on old scripts that we have not even been consciously aware of, that we don't know how to change, that are very, very familiar. We don't see things as they are, we see them as we are. And by the way, this to me makes perfect sense on how we can witness, like you and I can witness the same thing and see it very, very differently. If there's, well, let's say there's an auto accident. I hate using these like negative scenarios, but it can happen. So let's say that there's an auto accident that's involving three cars. And then, you know, police show up, law enforcement, paramedics, somebody shows up, and then they start getting witness statements. Every witness that they talk to, like if you think that everybody's going to see the same thing the same way, it doesn't really happen like that. We all see things differently. And we could have seen it from different angles. We could have been thinking about something else and only caught a glimpse. If we saw the exact same thing, we could see it differently. Here's another example. Then I want to get into the friction when it comes to other people and changing, that sort of thing, once again. But here's another example. A friend told me about this years ago, decades ago, so I may mess up the story a little bit, but it was fascinating. There were two groups of children in an elementary school class, I think like first or second graders. The teacher split them up into two groups. They had some blocks, stars, a star shaped item, yeah, 16 things, star shaped items, a circular, a round item, an oval item, and a square item. So they have these four different shapes: star, oval, round, and square. And they were in four different colors: red, green, blue, and yellow. So the teacher splits them up, puts them into two different groups, and says, okay, group one of children, group two of children, y'all put these shapes in order. Y'all put these blocks in order. Put them into order, and then we'll see what happens. So the teacher goes away, and they're working away, putting them in order. And let's say 5, 10 minutes later, the teacher comes back and goes, okay, let's see how you did. So, with the first group of children, they are so proud of themselves. They know they got it right. What the teacher saw was that they put all of the stars together, they put all of the round blocks together, they put all of the square blocks together, and all of the oval blocks together. Very good, wonderful, great job. Now, group number two, very proud of themselves, put these things in order. They put together all of the red items. They put together all of the blue items. They put together all of the green items and all of the yellow items. So they put them in order based upon what they saw. So I ask you, which group was wrong? Which one? I would say neither of them were wrong. They followed the instructions, they put them in order, they just saw it differently. And this is what we do as human beings. We see things differently, and it can be crazy making. So, one other thought I want to share about this with this point is that when it comes to other people not seeing things the way that we think they should see them or the way that we want them to see it based upon our own expectations, when it doesn't happen that way and we get concerned and upset about it and they get concerned and upset about it because they just are who they are, what can happen is we have unfulfilled expectations. The expectations that we have with other people can be unfulfilled, and then we can become very disappointed about that. Now again, with this being an inner game as opposed to trying to change outer circumstances with other people, that really basically doesn't work. I invite you to consider this, not just with compassion for yourself, but also compassion for other people and giving other people the benefit of the doubt because they too are seeing things based upon prediction scripts and expectations that have been ingrained within themselves for a long, 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 long time. So, with the idea of compassion and understanding, giving people the benefit of the doubt, and also because we can see things differently, to promise ourselves that we will go about our worlds with harm to none, including ourselves, with physical harm to none, including ourselves. Imagine what that would be like if we could all agree on that. We can agree to disagree, and we can allow ourselves to do that by keeping everybody physically safe as we work on figuring this stuff out. So, those are some ideas that I wanted to share. There is one tool that I'd like to share with you with respect to this that might help as you go about your day and dealing with other people and seeing where that friction is coming from. The unfulfilled expectations give you an opportunity to see where you can give that to yourself. Sometimes we're not going to get from other people what we want. If we want positive messaging, if we want consideration, if we want understanding, if we want acknowledgement, and we're not getting it from someone else, and we have unfulfilled expectations, gee whiz, what would it be like if we gave that to ourselves? What if we gave ourselves that understanding, that acknowledgement, that compassion, and that love? So I invite you to consider that when you are disappointed and you have unfulfilled expectations with other people, whatever it is you expected to receive from them, that's positive and life affirming. There's your clue to be able to learn how to give it to yourself. And you can do that. You can start in training new messaging for yourself so that you can automate something different than the perhaps false beliefs that you've been operating on since you were little. Sometimes when we say, oh, well, I'm not good enough because my parents aren't happy, and we can believe that, that's a false belief. That is not true. So we may want to explore where we have some false beliefs. There is a lot more information about this. I'm really only touching the surface with these ideas, but I wanted to just give you kind of a generalized idea on how this works. And we are going to talk in the future about how to prepare your brain to rewire things that you want to rewire in your brain. You can learn. We learn through time, focus, and repetition. And you can overwrite certain old scripts that no longer work. And that's a really, really fantastic, amazing ability that you do have. So if you want to start kind of giving yourself little things to help your brain kind of get out of its own automatic pilot state, you can experiment with different things throughout your day. Like as an example, if you're left, I'm a lefty. Where's my left hand? I'm a lefty. So every now and then, what I'll do is I will brush my teeth by putting the toothbrush in my right hand. Or I will write with my right hand to activate other parts of my brain, just to kind of stimulate things from being same old thing, from the same old habits that I have. So I will use my non-dominant hand. I'll use my right hand for things as opposed to my left hand. Every now and then, if I'm driving to work or doing something else, I might use a different route. There are certain things that you can do just to shift things up a little bit. Just try eating with your non-dominant hand, kind of trigger your brain to get out of automatic pilot. So that's just one example, and there are so many examples. Um, I can invite you actually to visit neurosculpting.com, which is a methodology on how to learn how to reorient your brain to new and different, more life affirming beliefs and thoughts and patterns from the old stuff that doesn't work anymore. We're going to talk a lot about neurosculpting in the future. I just wanted to throw that out to you just so that you know there are plenty of ways that you can learn how to rewire your brain. Okay. Last idea before I let you go, and thank you for your time today. Above all else, when you feel like you're getting dysregulated, you're feeling dysregulated because you have unfulfilled expectations and you're disappointed, or folks aren't acting the way that you feel they should be acting, or you'd like for them to act, even if it's in their best interest and they're not interested. If you get dysregulated, remember, you have the tools to regulate your own nervous system. You have the tools to move you from feeling like you're ill at ease, or you're feeling physically threatened in a way, your body is not feeling well. You know what you can do to get yourself back into rest and digest and homeostasis and a relaxed state, as opposed to being in a state of anxiety or stress. This is your superpower that you have the ability to do. Okay. So what I've done is I have put together a quick one-page resource with some very, very, very simple and basic tools that you can use for your nervous system to get regulated again when you feel dysregulated. One pager. It's simple, it's free, it's easy, and you can start doing it right now. So if this is something that you are interested in the description below, I have information on how you can access this one-page worksheet. And again, very, very simple stuff to help get you regulated when you're feeling dysregulated. If you have any thoughts, any questions, any ideas that you'd like to share, absolutely do. Drop me a line. You can, on my website, through email, through social media. I'll be around. So I look forward to hearing your thoughts on this subject. And again, first and foremost, remember, self-compassion is everything. You don't know why you do the things that you do, so give yourself a break. Self-compassion, give yourself and others the benefit of the doubt as we continue to figure these things out. And we're going to disagree. We see things differently. So perhaps we can start looking at things with physical harm to none, including ourselves, even when we disagree. My name is Janet Thomas. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Take good care.